remember the day I found out. The sunlight was streaming through the kitchen window, falling over the breakfast table, the same table where I'd sat 1,000 times before. That morning, my mother's voice trembled as she said my name, and in that single, fragile moment, everything I believed about who I was began to fall apart. Before continue, please subscribe our channel and like our video. My name is Lena Parker, and for most of my life, I thought I had a simple story. I grew up in a quiet little town in upstate New York, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. My mother, Marian Parker, was a quiet woman, strong, gentle, endlessly patient. She worked from home as a tailor, her sewing machine humming softly through the evenings, a lullaby that filled every corner of our small house. We didn't have much, but we had enough. She used to smile and say, "We may not have everything, Lena, but we have each other." And that was enough for me. She raised me on her own. When I asked about my father, she would say softly, "He just wasn't ready to be a parent." I never asked again. She gave me everything she could: school, warm clothes, birthday cakes baked from scratch. Our neighbors always said, "Marian's girl will make her proud someday." And I wanted nothing more than to make that true. When I got into college in the city, she hugged me tight and whispered, "Go live your life, sweetheart. Don't worry about me." I cried that day, because I didn't want to leave her behind. But she smiled through her tears, like she always did. In college, I called her every Sunday. Sometimes she sounded tired, but she never complained. Years passed, I graduated, found a job, rented my first tiny apartment. Every now and then, I'd send her money, not because she asked, but because I wanted to give something back. Life felt steady, predictable, until one ordinary Tuesday, when a stranger changed everything. I was at work when a woman came to see me. She looked to be in her 50s, well-dressed, calm but with eyes that searched my face like she was looking for something. "Are you Lena?" she asked. I nodded, a little confused. She smiled faintly. "You?" "Look just like her." "Like who?" I laughed nervously. "Like your mother," she said. "Your real mother." For a moment, I thought she was joking. But then she reached into her bag and handed me an old photograph. A young woman holding a baby in her arms. The baby was me. My hands began to tremble. "Who are you?" I whispered. She looked at me kindly and said, "I'm your aunt, your mother's sister." The world around me seemed to spin. That evening, I drove straight home to Marian. My heart pounded the entire way. When I walked in, she was sitting by the window, sewing as always. I didn't know how to start, so I just showed her the photo. Her hands froze, her eyes filled with tears. "Lena," she whispered, "I was going to tell you one day, but I was afraid it would hurt you." And that's when everything changed. The days after that were heavy, silent, tense. She told me what she could, but I could tell she was still holding something back. She finally said, "Your mother, Clara, she was my best friend, my sister in every way but blood." She paused. "When she died, I couldn't let them take you away. You were just a few weeks old." I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Confusion? Gratitude? All of it twisted inside me like knots I couldn't untangle. At work, I couldn't focus. Every time I looked in the mirror, I asked myself, who am I really? I started to notice all the little things that never made sense. Why I didn't resemble her. Why she never talked about the past. Why there were no baby pictures before I was 1 year old. The truth had changed everything between us. Our breakfasts were quiet. Our calls grew shorter. One night, I found her sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring at an old photo album. She looked smaller somehow, older. I wanted to reach out, but pride held me back. A few weeks later, my aunt came to see me again. She told me the rest. Clara, my birth mother, had fallen ill after giving birth. She was poor, alone, struggling, and when she died, no one in the family could take care of a newborn except Marion. She took me in, knowing it would change her life forever, and she kept the truth, believing she was protecting me. But I didn't see it that way. Not yet. I felt betrayed. Lied to. Even though I loved her, I couldn't stop feeling that everything I believed about my life had been built on a secret. So, I moved out, just for a while. She didn't stop me. She just said quietly, "You'll always have a home here." That broke me more than anything else. Then, one evening, a letter arrived at my apartment, not an email, not a text, a handwritten letter. Inside was a short note and a folded document. The note read, "Lena, I never meant to lie to you. I kept the truth because I thought love was enough. But I understand now. Love without honesty isn't whole. If I'm not around when you find all your answers, I want you to know this. I was chosen to be your guardian, not by chance, but by your mother herself. She made me promise to raise you as my own, and I did. With all my heart. Mom." I unfolded the paper. It was a letter from Clara, my birth mother. Her handwriting was shaky, but her words were full of warmth. "If you are reading this, my darling, then I am no longer there to hold you. But I know Marion will. She is the kindest, strongest soul I know. She will raise you as her own. Love her. She is your mother in every way that matters." Tears blurred the ink as I read it over and over again. For the first time, I understood. She didn't steal me. She saved me. I packed a small bag and drove home. She didn't expect me. When she opened the door, she looked startled and fragile. Her sewing machine sat silent behind her, covered with scraps of fabric. "I read the letters," I said softly. Her lips trembled. She didn't speak. I reached for her hand. "You kept your promise," I whispered. "You gave me everything, and I'm sorry it took me this long to see that." She began to cry, and for the first time in months, I hugged her. From that day, we began to rebuild. Slowly, gently. I started asking her about Clara, about the woman who gave me life. She told me stories, how Clara loved to sing, how she used to braid Marion's hair, how she laughed. Even when life was hard, through those stories, I met my mother, and through forgiveness, I met Marion again. Months passed. We started volunteering together at a local shelter, helping single mothers trying to raise their kids. Marion said, "If we can make even one life a little easier, it's worth it." I saw a new light in her eyes, the same light I must have seen as a child. Only now, I understood the depth behind it. A year later, on my birthday, she handed me a small box. Inside was a gold necklace, simple, elegant, with 2 tiny pendants. One had the letter "my," the other, "And for Marion and Clara," she said softly, "so you'll never forget that you were loved twice." Tears filled my eyes as I clasped it around my neck. I realized then, family isn't about blood. It's about the hands that hold you when you're scared, the voice that stays calm when life falls apart, the heart that chooses you, even when it doesn't have to. Today I wear that necklace every single day, and sometimes, when I catch my reflection in the mirror, I see both of them. Clara's eyes, Marion's patience. I've learned that truth can hurt, but it can also heal when it's faced with love. Marion may not have given me life, but she gave me something even greater, the meaning of it. And if I ever have a daughter of my own, I'll tell her this, that the woman who raised me wasn't my mother by birth, but she was my mother by choice. And sometimes, that's the purest kind of love there is. If this real-life story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more calm, emotional stories about love, family, and forgiveness. Your support helps these voices be heard.